This content is brought to you by Huawei. Sound is a more valuable resource than you think. So Securaxis' technology taps into that to help cities with traffic monitoring, intelligent lighting, and noise measurement. When Glenn Meleder founded this company, he already had a background in security, information processing, and ICT engineering for a leading humanitarian international organization, ICRC, also known as the Red Cross. Enjoy this video interview directly from MWC in Barcelona. Welcome, Glenn. It's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I'm excited to get to know you and your startup much better. And let's get just started. Investors always want to know the team and the people behind the company. So give us a quick rundown of who you are.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Securaxis is a team of 6 people, 2 co-founders, Gaëtan Vanet and myself.
Right.
And we have 3 developers, software developers, data scientists, and I would say back-end developers, people taking care of servers. And we have 1 product manager.
Right. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. Like, who are you, Glenn?
Yeah, me. Sure. Yeah, so I'm half French, half Swiss.
Yes.
And I'm 49 years old, married, 2 daughters. I have a background in electronic engineering.
Yes.
I work in France for 5 years as an electronic engineer. Mm-hmm. Worked for some French television before.
Okay.
Yes, and I joined the International Committee of the Red Cross back in 2005 as an IT engineer. Mm-hmm. And I work as an IT engineer in the field, actually. So I traveled in many countries for about 7 years, and then came back to Geneva as project manager, IT project manager. And during that time, that's how the idea around Securaxis actually saw light. I met with Gaëtan, and we thought that we should do something about the security of people traveling in conflict areas and or countries at war, for instance. And that's how the first concept of Securaxis started. Yeah.
You work for the Red Cross, you work for other companies. What made you decide, to start your own company? I mean, this is a big endeavor. It's a lot of, I would say, stress or like a lot of uncertainty that comes with it. What was for you like the moment that you said, I got to do this?
Yeah, I guess there was one moment, I was reaching 40 years old when I said, the corporate world is great, but, it's kind of limited when, in terms of innovation, in terms of, wanting to do your own thing because you think that you could do things better, for instance, or with less money. And you just want to free with your own, wings. And so I think there is a similar moment when you want to do things by yourself and you want to try out because you see around that some of the people, they tried and they succeed. So we said, why not me? Absolutely.
I mean, I had this feeling from a very young age, that I wanted to do my own thing. So here we are.
No, actually, it started before. I mean, it's not at 40 years old that I've decided to do something. It's just that, you are always looking for an idea, to grow an idea and make a business out of it. But you need several elements in order to succeed. And you need, for instance, to meet with the right people, to have enough cash in bank in order to, to sustain and to live without getting a real salary for a while. And you need a network, you need a network in order to test your product first and potentially also a network of people, willing to give you a bit of money in order to start things out.
Let's talk about Securaxis. I mean, give me a quick rundown about what you guys do.
We actually started back in 2016 with the first product, which was, we call it the travel safety, which is an application for people traveling abroad. So we have customers like the United Nations, like the Swiss Ministry of Foreign Affairs, like the TCS, which is the Touring Club Suisse, the largest Swiss insurance company for travelers, for instance. Those are our customers.
I'm a member.
You remember, so you're one of our customers. Great. Yes. So I don't know if your travel safety is on here.
I took it
Spain.
for the car. I took it for the car.
Okay. So you need, this contract when you're traveling anyway to be part of the membership. Anyway, so and in 2017 we had an opportunity I mean, it was very interesting because while going into startup shows and fairs and traveling around, meeting with customers, as we were working in security for people, I remember some people came to me and said, "Oh, look, I'm working in smart cities, and security in smart cities is a big problem. Do you guys also work and provide solution for smart cities?" And I was like, "Not really," but I remember that a project actually was taking place at the CERN, the research center in Geneva, around detecting explosion with artificial intelligence in order to provide better information for cities or for organizations wanting to do something about it. And this was, right after the terror attack waves that actually took place in Europe back in 2014-15. And the CERN wanted to do something about it. Not the CERN per itself, but it was rather people working at the CERN, taking their free time and their knowledge and skill set in order to try and do something about it.
Right.
And I remember that, and I actually went to see them and said, "Okay, look, there is an opportunity for this thing you are working on since a few years." And they said, "Okay, why don't you spin it off? Why don't you take it in your company?" And that's what we did. So we started to work on a first prototype back in 2018. And the goal really was to detect explosion, gunshot, car crashes, really linked to people's security again. And so that's how it started.
So just to wrap it up, like what you do today, can you maybe in one sentence?
Yes, in one sentence, we are developing artificial intelligence-based algorithm for smart cities to better understand the sound which is coming from the city.
So it's all about like the sounds and the noises that come to detect and then to eventually help, the city to do what?
Yeah, so this is, I would say, in broad terms, but we had to find, a focus in that.
Right.
So everything that I just said around security was a good starting point, but that was not really the selling point for cities, specifically here in Europe. We went, obviously, as any startup, immediately to see our first customers, and the first potential customers was the city of Geneva. So we said, "Look, we can help you detect explosion, gunshot, car crashes, and everything." And they said, "This is not really something we need, but the big problem we have is the traffic.
Right.
We have a big problem with traffic. Can your sensor do something about the traffic?" And we took it as a challenge, and everything started from there.
Interesting. Very cool. So tell me, where do you stand currently with the development? Like, what is your main focus right now?
The main focus right now is still the traffic. So I would say that we have a big competitor in the market, which is traffic cameras. So traffic cameras are everywhere. And this technology is actually posing some problems. So cost, it's very costly. Problem of privacy as well. So, filming people all the time, or people have the sense, the feeling of being watched with a camera. And the scalability also of this technology is problematic. So we are focusing on traffic because there is a need to reduce, the cost of monitoring the traffic. Also, there is a need to better understand the noise coming from the traffic. And there are very interesting use cases out of this technology, which is, for instance, the noise radar, on which we have a first version now live. And this first version of this noise radar is to tell the people that they are making too much noise with their vehicle. And we know it works. It works already. And people are, when you are going too fast, but you don't know where you're making too much noise. So our focus is developing that. This will be finished by the end of the year. And we have other use cases coming along.
Let's talk a little bit about, I like to think in decades. So, if you can, think of like where your company should be in, let's say, 10 years from now, what would be the ideal case for you?
Yeah, the ideal case for us would be, I'm not talking about an exit or everything, but in terms of technology, we know for a fact that noise monitoring for cities, it's growing already. It will be growing again and again in the future. That's really, the acoustic coming from cities is key. We know that this has an impact on people's health. It has an impact also on financials. Real estate, for instance, is looking to better adjust prices of houses based on many parameters, and the noise is very important.
Sure.
So cities, companies will be looking for this technology because it has to be part of this overall ecosystem of better understanding the human environment. So it will be here. We have competitors also working on that. So yeah, that's the future.
Where do you stand with fundraising? What is the current status? How much money have you raised in the past?
Yeah, so we have raised money. I won't disclose the exact figure now, but we have raised more than 1 million Swiss francs so far in 2 rounds. And currently we are looking for 1.5 million Swiss francs to continue developing the technology and also scaling business development.
That would be seed stage still. The 1 million.
I would say
pre-series
late,
A.
Pre-series A
Right.
or late seed.
Late seed. And what is the timeline for that?
End of the year.
End of the year, you want to close that? Okay, very cool. Tell me, what is your revenue and business model? What are you aspiring to do?
Yeah, so business model it's interesting. We are selling. I would say it's a mix of hardware and software. So we would love to be a purely SaaS company selling, and making, recurring revenues, which is some of our customers, they're happy to do that, but some other they're not, because this is not the way they work. Because they say, oh, you're selling sensors, so we want you to sell
We want 5 sensors.
Exactly. So we are still struggling, but along the way we see that now, this mentality is changing, and companies, and specifically, I would say, administrations, are now,
Yeah, sure.
moving.
Government are slow. There's
They're
nothing
slow,
else to
but
say.
People inside the government, people making decisions, they understand that there is an advantage of working on subscription-based model, and we are currently discussing with them and trying to convince them. They are convinced, but it takes time.
Sure. Yeah. I've seen, other companies, in the IoT space, what they do is they sell the sensor plus a subscription, or maintenance fee or something like this.
Actually, this is what we're doing. It's still a case by case,
Sure.
But hopefully in the future it will be purely SaaS.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Swiss ecosystem. I'm very curious, especially if you said you have half friends, so maybe you can compare it a little bit from other ecosystems. How do you perceive the Swiss startup ecosystem?
It's difficult to say. From my standpoint, being active in smart cities, I must say that the COVID period has been very difficult for us because even though we don't sell our product directly to cities, we are working with companies that in turn are selling our product to the cities. And during the COVID time, we've seen a lot of projects, put on standby or even stop completely, with big players, big companies said, we are sorry, but we cannot, do this product with you for the time being, or we just cancel it for good, which is not a good sign. And from an investor standpoint, this is not a good sign, because smart city projects for the moment are not seen as really bankable. And and Securaxis, all the companies are going through difficult time for the moment due to that. So hopefully it will change in the future.
Sure.
Hopefully everything will resume back to normal. We can see already that the cities are coming back to normal life, I would say, and now they want to restart again project, but this will take time.
Right. And how do you perceive, let's say, the investor scene? When you look specifically on the investors in Switzerland, maybe did you have invested in you, or that you're in talks right now? What is your perception on them?
I think investors in Switzerland are still very conservative compared to other countries. I was watching the TV this morning, and I've seen that in the UK last year, I think is over 15 billion euros has been invested in startup last year, and then you have Germany and then France, and France is still at 7 billion euros. I don't know where is Switzerland, but I'm sure it's far from that.
1.5 roughly.
Yeah, so it's not a lot. It's 10 times less than in the UK. And I think, the investor scene is still very, very conservative, and I think that investors are mainly investing always in the same area, biotech, medtech, this type of things. Although you can find investors for other projects like ours, of course. Yeah, it's difficult. I understand that Switzerland is not the Silicon Valley, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there is still room for improvement.
Talking of improvements, what do you think like it could be one of the things that like you would like to see in the next couple of years to be improved?
I think that the Swiss government should do something about startups. Really, let's take this Inno-Swiss system that we have in Switzerland, where money is actually given to academic bodies to
distribute.
Exactly, in order to develop technologies and take technology out of labs. We are currently part of an Inno-Swiss project with the PFL and EPIA in Geneva for the future of the noise radar we have developed. Yeah. But we are not given a single penny for that, and all money is going to them. If you take, for instance, France, they just awarded almost 1 million euro for one of our competitors directly to them to develop the same technology. So, I'm not saying it's not fair, but something has to change. If we really want to have our technology out in our streets, the Swiss government should do something about it. And when you see what's happening with the Horizon project now, it seems that Switzerland has been kicked out of it. It's a really, really bad sign for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the Horizon project?
Horizon project is a project. It's a financing system for innovations financed by the European Union.
Yeah.
And Switzerland is part of it. I won't enter into details because I'm not a specialist, but because of the talks between the European Union and Switzerland now seems to be closed for good. European Union said, okay, Switzerland is not part of those projects anymore. So it's a bad sign because this startup Securaxis could really took advantage from this type of financing mechanism because it's highly competitive, but we have very, very good projects here in Switzerland, with very good engineers, very, very good, research labs and everything. And that's something to really to kick your project really fast and, to grow fast across Europe, because this mechanism also gives you access to a lot of big corporates, European corporates. And now I'm not sure if we will be able to have access to that again in the future.
The next topic I want to discuss with you is really close to my heart. Is about like mental health and productivity, and I think it's always good to learn from people who have experienced different types, especially working for, I think Red Cross is considered an NGO. So
it's not an NGO, but it's considered as an NGO.
It's perceived. Let's say it's perceived as an NGO, and you have the corporate experience. So maybe you can tell me a little bit, how you deal with the stress of a startup, and how you make sure that you stay healthy on a mental level.
Working for an organization like the ICRC. Is very stressful, specifically when you work in the field, in countries at war, for instance. Living conditions can be very bad, and I've experienced that. So I was used to work in stressful, environment before. I would say that when you start a venture like a startup, the stress can be managed. It's more like dealing with the unknown. Where am I going? And I was already, a father and, a husband, and you need to be well surrounded by your family and friends. When you're a youngster, 18 years old, living at your parents' house.
No kids.
No kids. You can, work in your garage and do things, like all those stories of Facebook and all those. Yes, that's perfectly fine. That's another story when you're more mature. But this maturity also brings on the table the fact that you have an experience, you have an expertise, you have a network, you normally more or less where you're going. So that's not the same type of stress. So in a nutshell, it would be surrounded by the good person, to know exactly what you want to do, to know when to pull the plug if necessary, and have a plan B. So always be sure that if you are not succeeding, you need to find a work very quickly. So you need, people around you happy to help you if needed. Yeah.
Right. And tell me about there's a big topic about work-life integration, work-life balance. How do you handle this, especially with wife and kids? I don't know how old your kids are, but
they're still young. But that's not a big concern to me. So I'm a hard worker since always,
Yes.
and I'm not, stopping until things are done. So yeah, working almost all the time, and my co-founder as well. So we are two workaholic.
You like to work.
Yeah, so that's very important. That's very important. You need to dedicate a lot of time, and but I would say along the years, now the company is 5 years old now. Along the years, you learn to work, I would say, smarter. You work maybe less, but it's more efficient what you do.
Right.
And you know what the big, and that's true. The big danger for a startup is not to be focused and try to address many things at the time. With experience, you learn to be more focused and really to dedicate time on what's important and leave the rest aside and take it in the future.
Sure. Maybe you can share some of these productivity hacks or something that like you have learned over the years that make you work smarter.
Yeah, I would say for a CEO, one of the most interesting tasks is everything linked to administration. So even everything, running a company, you need to learn how to delegate things. So you need to be well surrounded again. You have to have a very strong core team that you can trust, and they trust you. And I think it's key. So that's one of the mistakes usually that we make, is that we don't really hire the right people at the beginning. So it's when people say hire slow and fire fast, it's really
it's true.
It's true. It's true. And this I learned. So at the beginning, firing people is always difficult because you have this corporate,
mindset.
Exactly, where firing people is always painful and oh my God, what am I going to do now? No, it's your company is at stake. The life of your company is at stake. So you need.
You
to
rather enjoy the process.
I don't know if it's enjoyable, but at least you have to make this decision, and
right.
you have to make it quick. Yeah.
What is your favorite book and why?
Many. I don't know why.
Yeah. What would you prefer for your company, an exit or an IPO, and
exit.
Why?
Because I want this technology to be part of a big ecosystem of other technologies. It has to be.
What is a successful entrepreneur for you?
Someone very happy in doing what he or she is doing.
If you think of one reason your startup could fail, what would it be?
Not finding the right customer.
And if you look at your life, what is success in life for you?
Difficult question. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I don't want to say what I've done so far because it's not true. I don't know. You have so many types of successful lives. So I don't know. No, it's a difficult question.
It's a I never said it was going to be easy. And if you have like one advice you want to share with your daughters for the next generation?
Don't hesitate. Go ahead.
Don't hesitate and go ahead. That's a very good one. Good one. I like it. Never heard that one. Thank you very much, Glenn. I really appreciate your time. And it was a great pleasure to get to know you and Securaxis. And I wish you much success on the continued journey of your company.
Thank you.